You check your reflection before you leave the house. You glance at a shop window as you walk past it. You know exactly what your face looks like, what your hair is doing, whether that shirt works. This feels automatic. It feels like it has always been this way. But it hasn't. For most of human history, you would not have known what your own face looked like. Not really. Not with any clarity. And the story of how humans figured this out anyway is stranger than you think. Start with the obvious question. Before glass mirrors existed, what did people actually see? A still pond, maybe. A puddle after rain. The surface of a dark bowl of water, if you tilted it just right. These images were faint, warped, and gone the moment the water moved. Anthropologist Ian Tattersall has written extensively about how early humans built identity without the tools you take for granted today. There was no crisp, stable image of the self. There was only a flicker, a suggestion, a rumor of a face. Think about what that does to a mind. Your sense of self is not something you were born with. It is something that had to be built, piece by piece, mostly through other people. For tens of thousands of years, the clearest mirror a human being had was another human being's expression. You learned what you looked like by watching how people reacted to you. A flinch. A smile. A stare held too long. That was your feedback loop. Not glass. Not glass at all. Here is where it gets interesting. Psychologist Gordon Gallup developed what is now called the mirror self-recognition test in the 1970s, originally studying chimpanzees. He marked an animal's face with a die, then showed it a mirror, then watched what happened. If the animal touched its own face, not the mirror, that meant something. It meant the animal understood the reflection was itself, not another creature. Very few species pass this test. Humans pass it too, but not from birth. Human infants typically only recognize themselves in a mirror between 18 and 24 months old. Before that age, a baby looking in a mirror often reacts as if meeting a stranger. So self-recognition is not automatic. It is a skill. It develops. And for early humans without mirrors at all, that skill had almost nothing to calibrate against. Now picture a world before Gallup, before glass, before any of it. Around 9,000 years ago, at a site called Çatalhöyük in what is now Turkey, archaeologists led by Ian Hodder uncovered polished obsidian discs, volcanic glass ground smooth enough to throw back a dim, dark reflection. These are some of the earliest known mirrors in human history. Imagine holding one. Imagine seeing your own face for the first time, ghostly and black, swimming in volcanic rock. Would you have recognized yourself? Or would you have flinched, the way an 18-month-old flinches at a stranger in the glass? This is where the twist lives. You assume self-image is a private thing, something that happens inside your own head, independent of anyone else. But for early humans, self-image was almost entirely social. You did not know your face. You knew your reputation. You knew how your body moved through space because you watched other bodies move and adjusted to match. Anthropologists studying small-scale societies today, groups that still live without personal mirrors, have found something remarkable. People in these communities often describe their own appearance in terms of how others react to them, not in terms of specific facial features. They know they are the one who makes people laugh or the one people trust long before they could describe the shape of their own nose. Ask yourself something. If you had never seen your own face, would you still know who you are? Most people assume the answer is obviously yes. Identity feels bigger than a face. But look closer at how modern psychology defines self-concept, and you will find it is built almost entirely from external signals. Sociologist Charles Cooley proposed an idea in the early 20th century called the looking-glass self. The theory is simple and a little unsettling. You do not see yourself directly. You see yourself through the imagined judgment of other people. Your sense of your own appearance, your own worth, your own personality, is assembled from how you believe others perceive you. Cooley was writing about modern society, but the idea maps almost perfectly onto ancient life, where mirrors did not exist and social feedback was the only feedback available. This means early humans were, in a very real sense, more socially wired than you are today. Not because they were more empathetic by nature, but because they had no choice. Your face was a mystery to you. The only way to solve that mystery was to watch how people responded when you smiled, when you grimaced, when you approached too closely. Every interaction was data. Every reaction was a mirror, just not the kind made of glass. Now here is the part that should make you slightly uncomfortable. Bronze mirrors began appearing in parts of the ancient world several thousand years ago, in Egypt, in China, in the Near East. But these were rare, polished, and often reserved for the wealthy or powerful. For most people across most of history, self-image through reflection remained a luxury, not a daily habit. Glass mirrors, the kind that gave a genuinely clear reflection, did not become widely affordable until centuries later, with advances in glassmaking in Europe. Which means for the overwhelming majority of the roughly 300,000 years Homo sapiens has existed, almost nobody knew, with real clarity, what their own face looked like. Sit with that for a second. Nearly every human who ever lived went through life without a reliable image of themselves. And yet they still fell in love, raised children, led communities, made art, waged wars, built civilizations. None of it required knowing your own reflection. All of it required knowing how you were seen. This flips something you probably take for granted. You likely believe that clear self-image, mirrors, cameras, photographs, makes people more confident, more secure in who they are. But some psychologists studying modern self-image argue the opposite may be happening. The more precisely you can see your own face, magnified, filtered, endlessly replayed on a screen, the more opportunities you have to find something wrong with it. Ancient humans were spared this particular kind of scrutiny, not because they were enlightened, but because the technology to obsess over your own reflection simply did not exist yet. There is a reason the myth of Narcissus has survived for thousands of years. In the ancient Greek story, a young man becomes transfixed by his own reflection in a pool of water and cannot look away, eventually wasting away because of it. The Greeks were not writing a technology story. They were writing a warning. Even a faint, watery reflection was considered dangerous enough to build a cautionary myth around. What would they have made of a glowing rectangle you carry in your pocket, one that shows you your own face hundreds of times a day? Modern researchers studying selfie culture and social media have found something that echoes this ancient anxiety almost exactly. Repeated exposure to your own image, especially edited or filtered versions of it, has been linked in multiple studies to increased body dissatisfaction and self-consciousness. Your ancestors built identity through the eyes of a small group of people who knew them personally, over years, in context. You now build identity through the eyes of anyone, anywhere, viewing a single frozen frame stripped of context entirely. The mirror got clearer. The judgment got louder. So the next time you catch your reflection in a window, or open the front camera without thinking, remember what you are actually looking at. Not a simple fact of biology, but one of the newest luxuries in the entire span of human existence. For nearly the whole of human history, your face was something other people knew better than you did. Your reputation was your mirror. Your community was your reflection. Maybe that is worth remembering the next time the picture staring back at you feels harder to face than it should. You checked your reflection before you left the house today. Your ancestors checked the eyes of the people around them instead, and somehow, that was enough.